This is total.
Hey, what the hell are we recording?
Yeah, and you're screwing up the intro.
What about my part? It's supposed to be our podcast, right?
Come on, man. I'm trying to be professional about this.
You know damn well there ain't nothing professional about what we're doing here. Welcome to Totally Unprofessional. It's Manuel and Justin, his two best friends shooting the breeze about nothing and about everything. We're separated by 10 years, 2 points of view on every subject from 2 different generations. Listen as we talk sports, events, and anything else that might come up. There's nothing professional about what we're doing here, hence the name, Totally Unprofessional. Podcast 1, first edition. If you're listening, thanks for being here.
Today is Monday, April the 25th,
Yeah.
I believe.
It's Monday, who really cares?
Right. Right. Got a lot going on this last weekend, sports-wise.
There's too much going on.
There's a ton of shit going on with the playoffs right now with the NBA, the UFC. Holy shit, what a week for UFC.
What a week for everything. There was boxing, there was UFC drama, there's
Oh,
basketball drama.
That's true. I didn't even think about the whole Triple G fight. That was a...
Triple G, you got Demetrius Johnson had a big night. I mean, you can go a little bit in every direction this weekend.
That's true. Also, Supercross races. They're winding down here in the last final 3 weeks. That's a big thing. I know not a lot of people follow it, but it is a little more mainstream now.
Well, and if you're going to go there, you might as well mention the damn Clovis Rodeo.
Oh, that's true. I forgot that was this weekend. Almost rained out.
Rodeos do not rain out.
Hey, I saw the videos online. That place was flooded.
You think the Bulls care?
They don't give a shit.
Literally.
Hey, you tie a rope to their balls. I'm going to run in the rain, sleet, snow. It don't matter.
That's true.
Off the top, I guess we should start with the UFC 197 Saturday night.
We watched that here at my house.
The main event and co-main event, Demetrius Johnson versus Henry Cejudo. Cejudo, Olympic gold medal wrestler. Supposed to give Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson his biggest competition in that division, minus John Dodson, who's now moved up to 135. But Cejudo did not look good at all.
Well, to be fair, he's a wrestler. I mean, we talked a little bit about it during the fights. I mean, you could be a wrestler and have a good base for UFC, but straight up, I mean, it doesn't mean you have a chin. And that's basically what happened. And Johnson caught him, and that was all she wrote after that. He never tried to take Johnson to the ground. And what happens after that? You really, a wrestler's not on the ground, he's not going to have a lot of chance. The only guy I've ever seen out wrestle a wrestler was GSP. And that guy's just might be one of the few total fighters in the UFC. So that fight never got to the ground. So to me, he never had a chance.
But I think the other side of that, though, is Demetrius Johnson not letting that happen. And Cejudo, I think, kind of figured like, oh, he's expecting me to take him down, so I'm going to do something different, and it worked against him. Johnson, talk about somebody who's literally gutted that division at 125. Johnson's got nobody left to fight in that division. It's kind of scary.
They were talking about him having to move up. He's going to have to do something if he wants better competition. But, I mean, why go up? He's on the division. He'll go down as the greatest fighter ever, probably 3 weight classes. I mean, maybe ever. The guy's just demolishing everybody they put in front of him. I don't think he could go up 1 or possibly even 2 weight classes before he finds competition.
I think at bantamweight at 135, he could get some good paydays with TJ Dillashaw and Renan Barão. Dominic Cruz for damn sure. I mean, Cruz's footwork is second to none.
Yeah, you're saying that, well, without having seen the matchup, though. I mean, this guy's, like I said, he's pretty much demolished everybody. And not to mention, when you get used to winning, and I'm not a big UFC guy, I'm more of a boxing guy, but when you get used to winning, Manny Pacquiao is the best example. Once he beat Ledwaba in South Africa, which happened to be the same night that Rockman knocked out Lewis, I mean, once he started winning, he went on a tear. And he was arguably one of the most simple fighters when he first started winning. You're talking about Demetrius Johnson, who's pretty much got every skill in the UFC. So, I mean, it's going to take a lot to derail that guy.
Not only that, but he showed something different in the clinch on Saturday night that I don't think Cejudo was ready for. When he caught that knee, I don't think that that he was ready for the body shots that he took in the knees, and then the knee straight to the head that was the one that wobbled him. I just think that it makes more sense money-wise for Demetrius Johnson to move up. This Reebok deal that they have, I mean, it really hurts guys that aren't on the upper echelon of marquee matchups. And for him, being the co-main event is a big deal. But at the same time, if he's fighting no-name guys, it's not going to get him paid.
Yeah.
And that's, unfortunately, that's what the fight game with the UFC has become about money. I mean, it is what it is. They get paid pennies on the dollar, and you got to go where the money's at.
I'd be curious to know what he made this fight, because he might not even be thinking about money if he's made his money and he's taking care of it, which, I mean, a lot of those athletes, they know they're not going to have many big paydays. So, I mean, if he's taking care of himself, he might just worry about being an icon at this point.
Yeah, but at the same time, do you want to be the big fish in the small pond? I mean, you know, how long are you willing to wait to find the guy that's the up-and-comer to knock you off that platform?
Not that, and there's a danger going up in weight. I mean, we saw it with McGregor going up to fight Diaz. When you start being a smaller guy, you get hit harder. There's different things that you don't see coming anymore, and he might have that in the back of his head. And if he does, hey, touche to him, man. He'll dominate the lower weights, go down as the greatest lightweight or whatever weight he is to ever fight in the UFC and be done with it. He'll forever be echoed. I mean, once you start losing, people forget about you. People don't remember Tito Trinidad anymore after all those wins. De La Hoya is not talked about as a fighter. He's talked about as a promoter. Once you start losing, your whole history is gone. And if you're to the point where you're already thinking about the end, I'll tell you what, it's time to start thinking legacy or money. Maybe legacy's in his head. Maybe that's why he's been in that division for so long.
Speaking of Conor McGregor, he's kind of superseded the UFC this week. Everything from the retirement tweet to the UFC saying that it's on him and that it's not fair and everything else. As we record this on Monday, last night on Sunday, he tweeted out that he was back on the UFC 200 card and thanked Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta for getting the job done. Where Dana White followed that up this morning with that tweet was inaccurate.
That's him playing chicken with the UFC, though. We talked about this last week, even Saturday night. So that's a guy with the star power to really take them on and get it better for the fighters. I mean, he's playing chicken with them, and he's basically telling them, hey, look, I'm the one with the earning power here, not you. And if you don't bring me in, you're going to lose money. I saw something on ESPN earlier. He says he's worth $45 million extra.
Yeah.
It's a $45 million boost to have that guy fighting.
Yep.
You think Dana White don't want a piece of that pie? That doesn't come around very often.
I think that it's a pissing match between the two of them, and unfortunately for the fans, I think Dana White thinks that the UFC and himself specifically have to stick to their guns and show Conor McGregor who's boss. But at the same time, they created this monster.
Yes.
I mean, how do you stand in a press conference and they ask Conor McGregor, you know, you're moving up to fight Nate Diaz. Are you willing to fight at 170? And if he does beat Nate Diaz, you know, Dana White, do you think that he deserves a shot at Robbie Lawler? And his exact words were, it's hard to say no to Conor right now. And if he wins, it's that much harder. Well, guess what? Now you're giving this guy all the power and all the reach, and then now because he's asking to focus and do what fighters do, you want to slap him on the wrist and say no, and then even go as far as hurting not only the financial side of things for the UFC because they're debuting at the new T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas at UFC 200, but also the fans. I mean, you put on, I believe it's like 53 shows in 52 weeks in a year, and that's a lot of product to shove down people's throat. I mean, to keep constant and fresh and everything else. And by far right now, he is the biggest star.
He's the draw. Even after a loss, he's the draw.
You know, I mean, and to look at that guy and go, sorry, you're not on the card no more. You're taking away a lot of buys on that pay-per-view. Don't get me wrong. People still feed the machine. People will still go.
Well, not only that, but they got a, I don't want to say a minor backdrop, but they got a fight in the wings. They got John Jones in DC. I mean, is it as appealing as a rematch with Diaz and McGregor? Probably not, but you still got a major fight that could make a decent draw. Is it going to draw that $45 million without Conor there? Definitely not. But again, this is a pissing match between them, and Dana's probably going to eat some this time if he decides to not put McGregor back in. But hey, touche to McGregor, man. He's willing to take him on, and I think that was pretty ballsy for him to put that tweet out there.
Do you think he's wrong? Do you think that the UFC needs to stick to their guns, or do you think that they need to just swallow the pill and put him on the card? Because we heard what Nate Diaz said on Friday at the UFC 200 conference.
He's not going to fight anybody but McGregor.
He said he'll go on vacation if he doesn't get to fight Conor.
Go on vacation. That guy's been on a vacation since before he fought McGregor.
Hey, kudos to him for being on a boat, taking shots of Patron, and walking in 11 days and beating the shit out of the superstar that he is, that Conor McGregor is.
Yeah.
I mean, you could make all the excuses you want that Conor's up 2 weight classes at 170, but at the same time, like, this guy legitimately had a 3-day camp if you count the whole week that Nate had to walk into Vegas, do open workouts, do all the media, all the shit that comes with that, and had literally, admittedly so, been on a yacht, taking shots of Patron.
Taking shots.
And
he was hitting the herb. That's a Diaz brother. We know what he was doing.
Hey,
I think McGregor, I think he's in the right. Somebody had to step up and start saying, hey, wait a minute, UFC, you're making hundreds of millions a year, potentially billions a year, in total revenue. They got to start paying these fighters better. At some point, it's got to be a slap in the face to these UFC guys to be watching these boxers, and not a knock on boxers. I'm a big boxing fan, but some of these boxers make it's ridiculous money. And they don't get the buys and the attendance that the UFC guys get. And quite frankly, some of these UFC fighters, their lifespan's not very... Their fight span is not very long.
Yeah, their shelf life isn't very long.
I mean, UFC they take more beatings sometimes than some of these boxers. It's kind of crazy.
I would dare to say that the beating that they take is just more based on the fact that they fight more actively. I mean, if you're a boxer, you fight twice a year, maybe 3 times. If you have a name that'll sell 3 times. I mean, these UFC guys are fighting. Fuck, look at Cowboy Cerrone. Sweet Jesus.
Yeah.
That guy will fight on 2 weeks' notice every 2 weeks if you let him.
To be fair, the old school boxers, they fought once a month if they could. If anybody that remembers Tyson, he would fight once 19 a month. What? You're going back to the 80s now. Back to the 80s.
Oh, not that far
That's
back.
before you were born, so...
Well, I was born in the late 80s. Let's be straight here.
But you'd have no honest memory of it, so...
Oh, yeah.
But I remember Tyson fighting once a month. Of course, his fights were only going 80 seconds at tops. He was getting a lot of first, second round knockouts. But old school guys, they fought real often. And nowadays, they got all this recoup time in between. So, yeah, I think McGregor's in the right. Somebody's got to stand up to the machine that is UFC and say, hey, wait a minute. If you want me to fight these fights, I'll fight. But you can't be drowning me in the media circus that you guys love to do.
Yeah.
Now, granted, that's what makes the UFC is that unlimited access that they get to fighters. But at the same time, he's right. I don't know that a fully trained and focused McGregor can beat Diaz, but I do think that his argument about being fully ready has a lot to do with his argument about needing more time. I mean, you see the week, it's been 2 weeks now. He saw his friend take a beating in the ring and then die afterwards, and that's got to weigh on his mind, man. That could have been me. I wasn't prepared. How much time did I actually lose?
But now another guy who was on the UFC doubling card, Paddy Houlihan, is a very actually, like, according to him, a close personal friend. As of today, it had to retire from the game because of a rare blood disorder. He kept to himself, and once he let the UFC know, they're no longer going to pass him medically. So that's another guy in his camp that is no longer active. I think that, he wants to be sharp. And one of the key things after, I didn't see the press conference live, but listening to it back, the reoccurring thing that reiterated with me with Dana White was he never said no. Every time somebody asked him if Conor McGregor was officially out, he said it's just not fair that everybody else showed up, but he didn't. He never said no. And then they said, so you're saying he's out? And he went, what more do I have to say? How about the words no?
Yeah.
To me, that just means that if he... I think he wants Conor to openly say, like, he was wrong or some shit like that, and kind of bow down to the brass, and then he'll let him back in.
And that's not going to happen. McGregor, we talked about this the other day. He's got his endorsements that he needs outside of it. He's made some money already.
Yeah.
If he needed to walk away, he could walk away, and I think that's what he's not afraid of. What's the worst thing that happens? He extends his lifespan because he's not banged up in the head.
Yeah.
Nah. We talked about boxers. Triple G had a second-round knockout again. they're asking for him to look spectacular. I don't know what else he's got to do. His next fight should be Canelo Alvarez, assuming Canelo gets by this weekend. But we'll see.
Oh, you mean the new standout cutout for Tecate?
Hey, to be fair, that's Mexico's guy right there. That's the best Mexican fighter. I really think he could have beat Floyd Mayweather had he gone out there and fought the way he fought. But for all we know, Mayweather's punches are 10 times harder than they look because he did not want to get in and trade with him. So, but Triple G, I mean, they're talking about how fantastic he looks, and he's still without Mayweather or Pacquiao fighting. There's not really a big draw right now outside of Triple G and Canelo. And that's really the fight that's got to happen for everybody. So
the fight that was superseded by all this stuff was John Jones and what was supposed to be Cormier, who got pulled out, and it turned into Ovent St. Preux. It went the distance. I thought that John Jones didn't look like John Jones. And Ovent St. Preux actually hung in there. I mean, he's a bigger cat. He stood and went toe-to-toe. According to reports and Dana White and the articles I read, OSP had a broken arm in the second round.
Oh, wow. And then to go the distance.
From a leg kick. He blocked a leg kick and it broke his arm. I mean, for one thing, that says some shit about John Jones' kicks.
Yeah.
But secondly, the toughness to stick 15 more minutes in there and try and continue to fight.
And he did land some shots on Jones. I mean,
yeah,
that was probably the more surprising part. You knew Jones was going to have some rust. He hasn't been in the ring for a while. He's allegedly not on the snow anymore. So
on that booger sugar,
you know, he's not on
that
the booger
white girl.
sugar. He's not on it anymore.
The
so
baloney pony.
That might have been what had that guy such an animal in the ring. So I mean, like he did break his arm with a leg kick, but you know, Jones definitely didn't look like Jones, but he's been away for a while. So they're saying DC is going to be his next fight. Let's see. I mean, that should be interesting, assuming DC is healthy.
They also had reports of Jones in the arena in a wheelchair post-fight. He swears that it was just soreness from a bruised shin and swollen feet.
He took some shots. I'm willing to bet he had a concussion.
Yeah, well, maybe, but I think from the swollen feet and a bruised shin, that's just being a bitch. You need a wheelchair? Really? Like, I mean, we work out on leg day and start some days with 84 squats. You don't see us in a wheelchair.
No. Of course, I'm not getting leg kicked by a 220-pound man.
So I mean, I've heard that we've been able to put some women in a wheelchair, but that's neither here nor there.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah, that's a different episode for a different day.
Or maybe sooner, who knows?
Yeah.
That's just him being a little baby. I mean, come on, nut up. You've been a fighter for a long time. You're regarded as one of the best. Come on, just walk around the casino, shake some hands, you know?
Right.
Give some time to the little guy.
I will say this. I do like seeing him embrace being a prick. He's not trying to be fake anymore. No. I like that. I mean, he's had a lot of his legal troubles and everything, and I think that sometimes he acts like, oh, I need to be this role model and stuff like that. Be who the fuck you are. You know what I mean? Like, don't. If people like you, they're gonna like you. If they don't, they don't. Damn that. This guy is legitimately, if you want to make the assessment, he's the LeBron James of the UFC with God-given talent. I'm a LeBron hater since day one, but God-given talent, like, if he never went in the weight room again, he'd still have the ability that he has.
Yeah.
And I feel that way about John Jones, especially after hearing the fact that, like, his first go-round before, while he was still on that booger sugar, he wasn't training.
Yeah.
I mean, that for sure tells me that the guy's God-given talent is just ridiculous. So,
yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
We'll see. I mean, I would like to see Daniel Cormier whip his ass. I'm not gonna lie, just to shut him down after he walked out of the octagon, dogging him with Cormier not even looking at him,
flipped him
and
off
then flipped him the bird.
That was awesome.
When it was over, I mean, I really hope that Cormier gets him, but you know, who knows? Jones has got some length and he's got some skills, and I would like to see a better Cormier. Cormier was still new to the game and new to the division. He was a heavyweight before he fought Jones, so definitely looking forward to that. And it's a possibility that replaces the McGregor-Diaz main event on UFC 200.
All I know is it better be whatever they replace it with better be good, because I'm gonna be there and I don't want to be disappointed. I don't want to be looking back saying, "Oh, I wasted some damn money on that damn UFC card." But the rest of the card's supposed to be pretty good. So.
Yeah, Cain Velasquez, Travis Brown, Miesha Tate, Amanda Nunes. There's quite a few good ones on that card, and supposedly a title fight to be named later, so we'll see. Which, in my mind, there's only, besides the Jones fight, there could only be one, and that would be Robbie Lawler versus somebody.
Throw McDonald back in there again.
Hey, we were there.
We
Fight
were
of the
there.
year,
That was
2015
awesome.
Fight of the
That
year.
was a great fight.
fucking war if I ever seen one.
That was beyond the war, man. That was
The funny part about that is if you watch that fight back, the first round they get booed out of the building.
Yeah.
I'm in the concession stand getting nachos and beer, and then all of a sudden people start losing their mind. I look up on the TV screen and these two are going to battle. Like I'm like, wait a minute, hold. And then this chick comes up in a dress that was showing some goods, and I was like, I might need to stand right here and watch the fights with her. It just
That's Vegas for you, man.
Right.
That's what's walking around Vegas.
I was like, I better get back to my seat before I get myself in trouble.
Yeah, good idea. You weren't taken at that time, I don't think.
At that time, it
don't
was
think
in the
so.
midst
It was
of
July.
some talking. The cuffs weren't on yet, but
Yeah.
but in the midst. Other things going on this weekend: the NBA playoffs. The Spurs swept the Grizz. I don't think anybody was really.
How about the Spurs? Our C's tied up the series yesterday.
I
man.
understand that, but
that's a big
say
one.
what
on
you
there.
want about. I mean, the Spurs seem to fit you more at that old age.
Oh, jeez.
They swept the Grizz. Nobody expected anything less, especially with the injuries from the Grizzlies.
And I think Duncan and Parker sat game 2 and 3, right? Or was it just 2?
I'm not sure. I know Duncan passed Robert Ory or tied Robert Ory, something like that, for tied for most playoff games. So that was a milestone for him. Cavs, of course, swept the
But
Pistons.
before you go any farther, let me just say, you're gonna call me an old man, but that old man team's gonna make the finals again, or the conference finals. If they get to the championship,
I was saying they're not beating the Warriors,
They're
but
gonna. Well, you know what? You got issues with Curry now.
he's only missing 2 weeks.
They say 2 weeks, but you know what? Sprained knee.
Hey, shit,
here,
send him to the finals.
Let's just throw this out there, okay? Poor homeboy slipped on some sweat. All right,
Yeah.
that's a sign of bad luck to come right there. That's just got bad luck written all
The
over the wall.
back-to-back MVP. The dude finishes 4th in most improved. The dude's an assassin. Like let's call it what it is. He's an assassin.
doubt. That guy's the best player in the NBA right now. That guy, leadership, playing wise, he's got he's a total package for a player. And
to be fair, you know what I think about that? Like, don't get me wrong, I love Steph Curry, but this other story that people aren't really talking about, and I guarantee it, say what you want, defend him if you want to. LeBron James, I guarantee you, is all smiles that the spotlight's on Steph Curry and not him.
Oh yeah,
I guarantee it.
watch it. We see. We're gonna wind up seeing Cleveland upset Golden State if they get back there. Watch.
You hold your tongue.
I'm not a LeBron fan. I like the guy. I think he's
He's love his shoes.
He's never proven to be a real asshole, but I like his shoes. They're comfortable. They were comfortable. You get into these other ones, but you know what? The guy you can't argue with what he is on the court. You say he's a gifted athlete.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen him play football. It would have been awesome, but
He is not the player that he is today if he plays in the 90s.
I agree. But he does have
Or
something
80s.
this year that he didn't have last year. Kyrie Irving's there. So,
Oh, that's it.
oh, that's me.
Yeah.
Somebody's trying to get hold of me. I don't recognize the number, so you don't get answered.
And that's it. You owe me a beer for that one.
Oh,
if
man.
your phone goes off while we're recording, you owe me a beer.
Party foul?
Yep. Same goes for me. If my phone goes off, I'll owe you a
Hey,
beer.
man, I'm an important person. I can't help it, man.
Oh, here we go.
You know, you can't just walk around with arms my size and not get attention. Come on now.
Come on. Really? We're going to go there?
But Kyrie Irving's back this year, and he's healthy. He's taking a bigger role. Is he going to be the difference maker that everybody thinks he is? No, but he's definitely going to add a different element. You know, he's going to demand a little bit of attention. It takes a little bit off of LeBron. Here we go. You know, I think that's the team that gives Golden State fits. I think San Antonio will, but I think it all comes down to Curry. If Curry's in, I don't think there's really anything between them and another championship. Curry's out, I think it opens the door a little bit. I mean, everybody's going to say that. That's a consensus right now. But the guy, I mean, everybody's talking about Draymond Green and Klay Thompson. Those two guys stepped up big. But
Don't forget about Harrison Barnes.
I don't know if you heard about Draymond Green's interview with that reporter. Did you hear about that?
No, I don't
Okay,
know.
so he's doing the post game with one of the Houston reporters, and the Houston reporter's asking him. This was a great story. The backdrop to that. He tells him, last year when you guys were here, you're visiting our beautiful city. The night that there was a flood, you guys won and you scored a lot of points. And the night there wasn't a flood, you guys lost and you didn't have her well. And the guy's trying to bait Draymond Green into saying something bad about
Right.
Houston, you know. And apparently this wasn't the first time he did it. So Draymond finally lets him speak about 5 or 6 more words. He says, hold on, you're trying to get me to say something bad here or try to get a controversial statement? Man, there ain't nothing funny about a flood. There's people losing their lives, their homes, their property. Man, I feel bad for the people here. You know, we're talking about helping out here, and you're trying to get me to say controversial. I'm not going to talk to you anymore. You know, you let the reporter have it. And it was awesome because the guy didn't fall bait to it to say something like, well, yeah, I hope there's another flood then. Yeah. You got to tip your hat to Draymond Green. He handled that perfectly, and he wasn't unprofessional about it. Because he could have really taken a sour note and really let him have it, but he said, you know what, you're not going to get me to make a controversial statement. This is how it's going to go. I love this city. I don't wish ill will on anybody. I hope that these floods go away so that these people can go on with their lives, but this ain't nothing to joke about. This isn't something to keep trying to create out of it, and I don't appreciate you doing that. So I thought it was pretty cool. I heard that on, I was listening to Mad Dog this morning. I was driving around everywhere during work, and I was just like, wow, I can't believe a reporter would try to do that, but that's media for you.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is.
Clickbait and sound bites, that's what they want.
Yeah.
Now back to what we were talking about, the Celtics. Huge Celtic fan. You and I both. 42 points out of Isaiah Thomas Friday night. Holy shit.
This guy's going nuts. I'm still shocked the Kings let him go.
And we got him for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, we stole him from Sacramento.
We were talking about that the other night during Game 3, and it's just amazing that Sacramento let him go. And above that, I mean, talk about Jonas right now. That guy's had 2 pretty big games back-to-back. I mean, Isaiah's obviously the front. He's the leader right now. He's doing all the scoring, but Jonas is in the trenches right now with Olynyk sitting and putting in some work, you know? Whatever rotation Brad Stevens has got going is working. The guy obviously knows his X and knows about basketball, which, I mean, if you're going to take Butler to the finals 2 years in a row, I mean,
you obviously know something.
You know something about what you're doing, especially the second year. They didn't really have the roster that they had. They were missing Gordon Hayward that year. I mean, he took a mediocre team and ran them through the tournament twice, you know? So, hey, I hope Ainge don't think about letting him go, because that guy will be a hot commodity if he does get on the market.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that was good. That was fun to see. I was at a golf tournament yesterday, so I didn't get to watch it, but I kept clicking the score.
Yeah.
They were down by 19 at one point. I was
Came
like,
all the way back.
I'm glad I'm not watching this.
Yeah.
Would have pissed me off. So I kept getting updates from the mothership.
The mothership.
And it's updating with the scores, and all of a sudden they're in overtime. I was like, yeah! Then the flash highlight comes of Isaiah's three-pointer right there at the end of OT. Put it out of reach.
Yeah, the fourth quarter, I mean, I caught it just late in the third, and they were still down, fighting back. Paul Millsap, holy shit, 45 from him.
Yeah.
For Atlanta, that was a little scary. But, you know, guys stepped up. I think that's the big thing with the Celtics is that they have to be a team. They don't have a superstar guy. Don't get me wrong. Isaiah Thomas is a great freaking player. All-star, you know, all those good things. But the go-to guy right now is him, but it takes everybody to get him those looks.
Yeah.
And people were on the broadcast, Marcus Smart late in the fourth quarter, pump fakes and dunks from the baseline, and they go, that's what Marcus Smart needs to be doing, not shooting threes. Then he goes and hits back-to-back nothing but net threes, and they're like, oh, see, but it's different because he opened up shots. As somebody who's a big avid basketball fan and somebody who's coached, I agree that it's a different look than just shooting a shot just because. But I tell you what, man, that kid, I was a little skeptical in them taking Marcus Smart over Julius Randle, but I tell you what, his defense his shooting has come around as an offensive player, and he's a crucial part of this team, big time.
And you go back to Steve. This is going to go back to Stevens. He took a guy that had a certain skill set, a defensive skill set, and said, we're going to make this guy better at what he doesn't do well, which is his offensive side, and look at him flourish. I mean, you know what? It's going to go back to Stevens is good with those young kids. With the kids coming out of college, he's good with developing them further and making them into better players, which is obviously what Isaiah was missing before, over in Sacramento. He didn't have nobody to develop him through that. Stevens is doing that with young guys. I mean, who's the old guy on the team now? I mean, Crowder? I mean, you're talking about this is a young team still.
Yeah.
And Stevens has got them playing like a veteran team. Don't get me wrong, they got plenty of growth to go, but man, it's awesome to watch.
What's funny about that is I think Marcus Smart's success has to do with nobody in the front row calling him names.
That's awesome.
No, definitely. And then on top of that, we're looking at a top 5 pick thanks to Brooklyn.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brooklyn.
Well, hey, you know what?
Unprotected, you dumbasses.
Along with Stevens, we're talking about Stevens and the coach and what he's doing in the trenches, the actual games. Danny Ainge, I mean, holy cow. You might as well compare him to John Elway and what John Elway does in Denver. The guy knows how to move around and get picks. He knows how to get the right kind of players in the system. Him and Stevens obviously, confer about what they're doing, but the guy made enough moves to stockpile picks for a couple of years. I don't remember, I think it was 2 years ago, we sat and looked, what kind of picks they got the next couple of years? I don't remember the number, but it was huge. And we were trying to figure out what they're going to do where. Watch. Where's Klein going to go?
Yeah.
Watch him wind up in Boston because they got enough picks to barter with that they don't got to give up too much cash or players or anything.
They got a stockpile of picks, that's for sure.
They're
Looking forward to what they're going to do this summer. That's for sure.
So let's find out what you heard. Hack-a-Shack.
Oh,
did you hear about that?
About that whole theory about them getting rid of that and all that shit?
All I know is whoever came up with the idea to make it a rule that you can't do the Hack-a-Shack needs to straight be kicked in the balls.
Well, they denied that it was taken to the NBA's ruling committee or whatever the hell it is that they vote on, and it was voted on that as of right now, that rule still stays that you can do that. That's not going to be any issue or any penalty. I mean, I think that's part of the reason why teams are going away from drafting true big men, and they're going farther and farther away from the game. People say, Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard's not a true center. I don't give a shit what anybody says. He's got one move, and it's a spin move, and then everything else is a lob. And I got news for you. LeBron James at 6'8" can do that shit, and he plays small forward.
Yeah.
I mean, hell, Avery Bradley, who plays shooting guard and is all of 6'3", can do that shit for the Celtics. So don't tell me that Dwight Howard's got post moves and he's the next Shaquille O'Neal, because he's not. No. Shaq is 100% right when he says there's only one Diesel and only one Superman. So Dwight Howard, sit the fuck down. You're not a big man.
Agreed.
To me, the one guy that still is a true center and he's a veteran, but he's on the younger end, is Brook Lopez. Fresno's own Brook Lopez.
Yeah.
In Brooklyn, injury ridden with the foot injuries, but that's the last guy that I've seen that will put his back to the basket and try and work post moves. He works the short corner out of his jump shot. He does some shit that other guys don't do as a five. Because outside of that, there's not really anybody in the NBA that's
DeAndre Jordan, DeMarcus Cousins.
DeAndre Jordan, I would say kind of, but he's along the same lines as Dwight Howard. He doesn't really have a solid post move or post moves. He's all about lobs from people off of pick and roll. I mean, Tim Duncan is the pick and pop. I mean, now that he's older, he plays center, but he's a true power forward.
Yeah. Arguably
the greatest power forward to ever play the game. I would put him 1 and KG 2. I mean, that's just me though. But that's to me. There's no big guy in the league that that sits down and goes, I'm gonna go to the basket. I'm gonna back you down. I'm gonna hit a fade or I'm gonna dunk over you. That kind of shit just doesn't happen anymore.
It's a 3-point league now. Come on, we play the men's league. Okay, how many guys actually go down to the post? You don't. I think I've seen 2 guys do it. Really. I mean, I'm not counting myself because that's all I play. But you really only see. You don't see it. You see the guys wanting to chuck up threes, whether it's 5 feet behind the arc or right at the arc. That's what kind of game it is now. And these guys, that's all they want to do now. I mean, and hey, if that's what you want to do, fine. But don't get mad when I steamroll you. And make that 3. But
for the people listening, go ahead and let them know your height and weight when you say steamroll.
So I'm built more like a bowling ball. Get all 5'9" of me. You're pushing 260.
All 5'9".
I'll steamroll. It's funny, we played the other day, that ref, I went to the basket and actually made a strong drive to the basket. Guy jumped in front of me. We're probably 2 feet in front of the free throw line. And I took off for a layup. I'm hoping to get the foul call, maybe get to the free throw line, make 1 or 2 like I normally do. And I didn't get the foul call, but a couple minutes later, someone got fouled and we're lined up. And guy looks at me and he says, "I thought you were going to slam it." I was like, "Are you talking to me?" He goes, "Yeah, man, you took off pretty fast. You got into the air." I was like, "Dude, I was probably like 3 inches off the ground." He's like, "Yeah, look, but you took off real fast." I was like, "Come on, bro, all 5'9" of me up at the rim, really?" And the ref started laughing. He goes, "Well, you sure looked like you wanted to." I said, "Then thought never even crossed my mind."
Don't worry, the brain didn't tell your muscles that either. From where I was standing at the 3-point line.
I guess I could have thrown a foot on his knee and maybe used his gut to push myself up and maybe get close, but that's about as close as I would have gotten. But you hear a lot of talk about it. The free throw, that's a normal function of the game. If you can't make them and you cost your team a game, that's on you. Yeah. That's a part of the game. If you're gonna outlaw the hack a Shaq, if you're gonna pass a rule that says you can't do that, you might as well get rid of free throw shooting. There's no point in having it at that point, because the only ones that are gonna have the ball in their hand, much like they try to now, are the better shooters, and. Hey, fouls away from the ball, they'll start making them flagrants or something. They'll start doing something ridiculous, and they really just shouldn't mess with it. That's a normal part. We coach youth basketball. We coach high school basketball. One of the biggest reasons our team struggled last year, free throws, and we work on it. You teach them to do that. How about spending some time on the free throw line, instead of the short corner? Learn to go strong to the basket with your layups and then finish your free throws. That's really what that needs to be.
Fair enough. Well, now that we got some of this weekend sports stuff out of the way, this being episode 1, I feel it's only appropriate that we give a little bit of a history on how we know each other and how this shit came together. So, I mean, what is your recollection of us meeting up for the first time to your knowledge? And then I'll give you what I remember.
All right, so I don't really remember the first time. I just recall playing basketball together. Over at the church, I started going just to get a little bit of exercise. I was starting to get a little more round than tall, so I needed some exercise.
All 5'9" of you.
All 5'9" of me. Started really looking like a bowling ball, and I just remember running you over there. And of course, my wife knows your mom, so family, a couple of interactions here and there at the church, and that's what I remember starting. And we started playing ball together for a while. That was when you were working nights. Showed up in the morning. Friendship kind of flourished from there. We started to know each other real well when I asked you to help me one time with some recreation ball. I had I think it was a 7th and 8th grade team.
Yep.
And you helped me once or twice with that. And I remember telling you, hey, I'm coaching at the high school, and if I get the opportunity, I'm going to need an assistant that knows what he's doing. So I hit you up, and you're like, yeah, just let me know. Well, lo and behold, a year later, I got offered the Frost job, and I took it, and so I hit you up, and we finished that basketball season. I was like, hey, man, I'm going to start working out. You down? You're like, yeah, let's start working out. And that's pretty much, that's the road to here.
Yeah.
We've enjoyed some trips. We've enjoyed a lot of trips.
I was going to say, a few is...
Not some.
Yeah.
I had a nice run of good luck there. We were able to make some major trips. Our most notable one, go to Sacramento to see the Celtics.
Oh, hey, 2 state capitals in one night.
Wind up in Carson City that same night, actually.
I don't know anybody that's made that trip. Not nobody that I know of.
So we leave Dinuba. I think we left about noon, maybe 1 or 2. I think.
No, it was actually later than that. It was like 2, 3 o'clock.
Okay, so we left here
later because the game started at 7.
7, yeah. We got there. We watched the game. Game finished, I think, at 10:30.
You missed the part about the barbecue spot that we found off the freeway.
We hit that barbecue off the 99 up in Stockton.
Mm-hmm.
And that was
209 for the Diaz brothers.
Oh, yeah. We thought about making a pit stop, but I didn't want to go to that side of town. I did live in Stockton for a while, so I know where they're from, and it's not a good side of town. But that would explain why they hit the way they do and why they fight the way they do. But, so we pit stopped for some barbecue in Stockton, headed up to the game. Went to the game. We got done the game 10:30. Decided, it's early. Let's go to Tahoe. It was only like an hour and a half away. Made it to Tahoe by, I want to say it was 11:30 or 12.
Yeah.
Tahoe wasn't jumping. There was nothing going on. And I said, we're only another hour and a half from Carson City. What do you think?
We're already this far.
Let's go. Drive up to Carson City. Now, if you've never been to Carson City, I've heard it mentioned in a few movies. I really thought it was going to be a lot grander than what it was. It's just another state capital with nothing going on.
No shit.
We drove through. The Capitol building was pretty nice. We found one casino. And then we found one, I think it was called Slot, not Slut.
Slot World?
Slot World is what it was called. And I went up in there and we started talking about how we're going to get home in time. He's like, well, I got a mush ball tournament at 9. It's like, hey, dude, it's 12:30, man. Well, we better take a break or something. I said, tell you what, you take a nap, you can have the first shift driving. So I stayed on the machines while he took a 2-hour nap. Mm-hmm. Went, woke him up. We got 2 hours into the drive. He says he's tired. We basically rotated an hour at a time all the way back. Made the mush ball tournament.
Foggy as hell, too.
Oh, yeah.
For the record. By the time we got back into Sacramento, we could barely see the hood of the car.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were flying, too.
See, the way I remember me and you was farther back than that. It was one of the family fun nights for Halloween, and you were the MC.
Is that the year I wore the cow?
Yeah, wearing the cow costume full with udders. I had 4 udders on the front, and trying to encourage people to come up and talk to you. And your exact words were, "Come up and milk me." How the hell are you gonna tell little kids that? That was an adult joke if I ever heard one, and at a kids get together for that.
Come to find out, there's not even male cows. What the hell's that all about?
Yeah. Well, if the shoe fits.
Well, you know what? And so one of the gentlemen came up to me that night and he said, "How can you be a cow?" And I said, "Well, you see the udders, you see the costume," and he says, "But there aren't a such thing as male cows, son." I said, "Sure there are. Otis the cow." For those of you who don't know who Otis is, it's from Barnyard. That's a male cow in that show. That ain't no female cow. Well, it turns out cows are only female.
Yep.
Okay, you learn something every day, right? You know what male cows are called? They're not called cows. They're called bulls. All right. So for those of you that know, I'm running around apparently as a transvestite cow. Okay, confused cow. All right. That was pretty awkward. But it was a popular costume, you know.
Hey, you were ahead of your time. Who knew that Bruce Jenner was going to handle that?
For the record, that's still a man. He's still got junk. Okay?
That's right.
Until he cuts his junk off, which I think he's afraid to do. But anyways, so yeah, no, that was a popular costume. As a matter of fact, every year they ask me why I don't wear it again. Probably because I've grown out of it. But that was.
I think it's because you have more inappropriate jokes for it. Is what it is. No, I remember that, and then being there. I actually saw a girl that I knew, and I was like, "Oh, I know that girl." Turned out that I went to school with your sister.
Yes.
She's a year older than I am.
Yeah.
I didn't know it at the time, and I was like, "Oh, hey." As you said, my mom and your wife know each other. As you stated at the beginning of the podcast, we have 10 years between each other. So, you having a full family, I don't have any kids, and seeing everybody around, it was kind of like, okay, I'd been playing ball there for a couple years. Right after I turned 18, I was right in there playing ball with all the adults. It was the only place that I knew of that people would get together and play competitive ball at that point. A lot of the high school guys only played at certain times, so I wanted to play all the time. And then you started coming out there, and good Lord, if you weren't built like a linebacker trying to play basketball, you still play defense like a linebacker, if we're being honest here. But yeah, I remember us playing ball a little bit, and then the guy who opened the gym had to give it up due to injury. Then the next guy got in. It was only in for like 2 months, and he got hurt. And then you were given the key that way, and from there it just kind of took off, like you said, to the rec thing, where you kind of said, "Hey, is there anybody that you know that knows about basketball?" And then I kind of took that on, and I can remember when you offered me to help you with the high school job, I was like, "Oh, okay," like, yeah, not knowing what we were going to take on. Sweet Jesus. And it just kind of ran from there. I mean, I didn't think, I really didn't think that we'd become as close as we are now. I mean, 10 years, a lot of people look at us and go, "How are you guys friends? He's got a full family, kids and a wife, and, well, you got a girlfriend, but you don't have any kids, and you're 10 years younger than him." And little do people know that most of the time our wild ideas come from you.
You just keep them from getting too crazy.
I'm always like, wait, hold on. Let's think about this for a second here.
Well, and pretty much everything we've done, it's been one of us to push the other.
Yeah.
It's funny.
To be fair, like, a lot of the trips that we had taken was kind of like, no, there's a purpose to this. Like, we're not just running around, and let's, it was kind of like one involving the other. Like, hey, I have this idea. What do you think? If you're down, let's do it. And the podcast really came about that way. It was, an idea of mine to do a wrestling podcast. I'm a big wrestling fan, which in future episodes will be referenced, I'm sure. And started kicking the idea around, and then you and I started shooting the shit like we always do when we go to the gym and have regular conversations like we do. And it just kind of went, a lot of people talk shit and go, "We should be recording this," or "Somebody should follow us around with a video camera." And you just looked at me and went, "Well, why don't we just fucking do it?" And it was like, all right. Like, well, if you don't, like, this is your idea. Like, don't be a bitch. Let's do it. And that's really what it came down to. And within 2 weeks, we're buying the equipment. We now have a tech guy. And, you know, it's on. Like, this is episode number 1 where we made shit happen, you know. I think that this is going to be something fun. It'll be something different. And who knows where it can go. You know, as far as the podcast goes, I'm sure we'll be learning as we go. But it should definitely be fun.
The best part of this will be that mostly it'll be 2 different opinions because while we do share some interest, there is a lot of difference of opinion, which I think is what makes a friendship great. It's just, you know, we complement each other with the differences of opinion. You know, there'll be things I'll ask your opinion about. There'll be things you ask my opinion about. So it'll work both ways. So you never know.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's funny though that stuff like this, a lot of people go, well, you know, what does his wife think? Like, he's out running around with a dude that's 10 years younger than him. To be honest, we're not out running around. We're not running roughshod through the streets. We're not out in bars. We're not going to strip clubs. I mean, that's somebody else that we know all entirely. But no, I mean, it seems to be that we have a good dynamic on when one kind of gets out a little too far, the other one kind of reels them in a little bit. And when we have ideas, the other one seems to push the other one over the top and go, all right, well, let's fucking do it.
Let's just do it.
Quit talking about it. Let's do it. It's a fun thing for sure. I think definitely going forward, we're going to do some fun stuff. We'll have some guests from time to time. We'll have some stuff where episodes are specifically about a topic or two, and we'll probably get to ranting on some of that shit. Get on some soapboxes because this is our podcast and we can say whatever the hell we want.
Yeah, that's the great thing about the podcast. We don't have to take phone calls.
Yeah, that's for damn sure. So just as I referenced the date when we started this, these are not live. Contrary to some of the podcasts that you hear out there, this is not live. We try to give you guys an appropriate date on the episodes and stuff. But hopefully, you know, this is the start of something cool, something that's going to grow into something that was just a fun project on the side that could grow into a regular thing. So looking forward, what you think that we need to be doing in future episodes? What you got for ideas that we can put out there?
Just shooting the shit. That's the best part about, I think, this podcast is that it's not structured. The name Totally Unprofessional will summarize everything because we don't have sources. We don't have people giving us advice. This is just completely me and Justin just sitting here and running through conversation. You know, recapping stuff, giving opinions about stuff, and you're not gonna like some of our opinions. Shit, you might not like any of them, and that's okay. You know, because everybody likes to look at a train wreck. And hey, hopefully it can be kind of entertaining and just something you like listening to. So. The makeup of it, you know, mostly is probably be sports. That's straight up what me and him both enjoy. We both enjoy sports, you know. I'm more of a football and a boxing guy. Everybody likes to say they're football, but, I mean, I'm a Bengal fan, but I'm not just a Bengal fan. I'm a legit football fan. You know, there's a lot going on in the football world right now, and I'm not just keeping track of Bengals transactions. I've been watching the Josh Norman thing real close, and, you know, it's intrigued me just because of what they wanted to pay him and what he wanted. I think there's more story to it, but, you know, that's me. Football is me. Boxing is me. He mentioned Supercross earlier, and I gave him a funny look like, what the hell are you talking about? But that is a sport to some people. So, you know, we got another guy that'll come in here. Jake will come in here. That's Justin's brother. He's a Supercross guy or motocross or whatever it's called.
Former motorcycle racer.
Yeah, he used to race. Well, he's raced recently.
Yeah.
Right? He's raced recently. So, you know, we'll get him in here with us, and he can give us some perspective on that. Apparently, Justin knows something about wrapping things around balls or something he mentioned with bulls earlier, so he could talk a little bit more about that. I'm not sure what that's about. But, yeah, there'll be a little bit of everything. Not just sports. There's always things going on that can talk about, especially popular topics, you know. Prince was a real big one this last week, and the most interesting thing I read about him is he didn't leave a will.
Oh, really?
$300 million estate, and there's no will. And 2 ex-wives, so that should be interesting.
Something tells me there was a whole lot more women than 2 ex-wives.
I didn't say there weren't more women. I said there was 2 wives.
Speaking of Prince, I tell you what, that dude got ass. I have no doubt in my mind that dude got major ass. I mean, he was hot when I was little, and even before, probably a little bit before I was born, late 80s, I was born in 87. So a little bit before I was born, rolling into my early years.
So this guy goes back farther than that. Apparently, it's the late 70s when this guy started.
Yeah.
He got popular in the early 80s.
Well, when did Purple Rain the movie come out?
That was like 83 or something like that.
Really? It was that far?
It was early.
See, shows how much I know that.
Yeah, it was early. If my history's wrong, I'm sorry, but I'm pretty sure it was that early.
Well, you were born in 1900 what?
I was born long enough ago to remember mullets. Oh God. Aquanet hairspray. Super perms.
Activator and Jerry curls.
Activator and Jerry curls. That's yeah. Don't date myself too much, but no. You know,
Well, I want to know, what do you know about the hot comb?
I remember rotary phones.
Oh,
that
shit.
wasn't that long ago. But then again, you know what? Somebody.
To be fair, I mean, I'm 28. You know, I'll be 29 this year. I know about rotary phones. My grandma used to have one. You know, but it's funny to me now at our age, like my age now, and you 10 years ahead of me, that kids don't even know what the hell a landline is.
Landline. I remember I asked the girls if they knew what a payphone was, and that was funny. And I said, "You didn't know there used to be a payphone by the gym at the high school?" And they looked at me. A payphone? I said, "Yeah, you know the one you put quarters in? Used to be dimes at one point." And I just got a funny look, and I was like, "Wow, okay, yeah, I'm a little bit older, so." But before I keep dating myself too much, yeah, no, it'd be different topics. You know, there'll be a little bit of everything. Try not to fix too much on one. You know, the gears will change very often, especially if we really get into a heated debate about something. It happens quite often. Those are some of the high listening points is when the debates happen, because those are when the interesting points come out. But yeah, we're gonna try to do this twice a week to start, and we'll see what happens.
So to those that are listening with us, hang with us. I'm sure we'll get better as it goes. And like we said, there'll be lots to pick up on. Some of the shit you'll hear, that's the same stuff that SportsCenter and ESPN are picking up. We read those articles. We get those updates just like everybody else on the phone. We hear the da-da-da, all the time. Constantly checking stuff out. So some stuff you may have heard already. Some shit, we're talking about that on our own personal opinions. Some shit we agree with, some we don't. But like I said, hang with us. I promise it'll only get better, get funnier. If you're into the more serious shit, we'll have days where it's serious. So this is episode 1 in the books. Let's see what we can do on Friday.
All
episode
right.
2.
See you Friday.
Yeah, I forgot to talk about the new rule.
What's the new rule?